Fantasy and Some Flights, exploring the realms of beer, board games, books, and bourbon.
Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy and Some Flights podcast. I'm Nelson.
I'm Nelson. I'm Dalton.
Wait a second.
No, I'm Nelson.
Wait. Oh, crap. Have we been doing this wrong the entire time? Oh.
It gets confusing.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. Well, okay, so I'm Dalton.
I'm Nelson.
So we actually haven't started drinking already, but let's talk about what we are going to be starting to drink here soon. So, Dalton, what's on your flight tonight?
We can do that. Do you want to talk about what this episode's going to be
No.
about? The topic? They already know.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
No, okay, fine, yeah. Well, we're talking about the OG OT the original trilogy for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Episode 4, Episode 5, and Episode 6. So we're going to do our, I guess, book breakdown.
Yeah.
Sure,
series
yeah.
Breakdown,
They
maybe?
had like books that went along with them.
They did, yeah.
Yeah,
Books
so-
exist for the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Disney like uncanonized all of them. But
We're doing it. Books extends to fantasy and media in this case.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we're
yeah.
gonna do a breakdown of the OG Star Wars trilogy. I'm really excited for it. It's gonna
I
be
am
a lot
too,
of fun.
yeah.
There's a lot of ground to cover there
yep.
for sure.
Okay, fine. Now
Now.
tell me what you're drinking. Actually, no, I'm going to tell you what you're drinking.
Yeah, you tell me what I'm drinking. What am I drinking tonight?
Yeah, so we did the whole thing where Dalton got me some whiskey, I got Dalton some beer, and we traded. So tonight, Dalton is drinking Snow Shed, which is a beer by 4 Day Ray Brewing, and I picked this up earlier today, and I picked it up literally because of the name, because it was actually the first snow of the year here in Indiana. So I was like, I walked around the store, and I saw it, I was like, yeah. As soon as with the name like Snow Shed, I knew it wasn't going to be an IPA,
Right.
But it's a winter ale.
Yeah.
So winter ale is technically not an official type of beer, so that's kind of fun. But it's a
I didn't know that. You see it all the time, so I actually just assumed
yeah.
There
No,
was a
I had no
category or
idea.
something that like it applied to. Or whatever.
Yeah. Basically, it just means it's an ale that's brewed in the winter.
Yeah.
There's some other kind of caveats to it, but they're typically dark ales with higher APV to like ward off the cold.
Oh, nice.
So this one's sitting about a 6.5 percent, which is it's not super high.
Yeah, not super high, just a little toasty.
The SRM, it's a pretty dark beer. I would say it's around like 24.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of brown in it. I would say that. Like it's not a stout.
Right.
Or porter, but it's getting there. It's got a little bit of brown in it. But Snow Shed by 4 Day Ray. What do you think about it?
Yeah, it says on the just real quick about the name. It has like a little thing on the side. It says 4 Day Ray is railroading slang for an employee who habitually calls off work for 1 day a week. I think it's an awesome thing to name your brewing company.
I like
after.
that.
It's like every Friday is a day off. It's really good. It reminds me a little bit of the dark Belgian that I had last time. Just that it has kind of those kind of like festive dark fruit kind of spice flavors going on. It's not quite as like strong as it. It's more like muted than like the last beer was. I feel like winter ales are one like kind of similar to pumpkin, where it's like I think they kind of taste similar to me. I don't know if that's
Gotcha. Yeah.
like it's weird because it's not like it's a defined spice profile or something like that, but it just has like a certain flavor that it's like I would associate that with like a winter ale, kind of that like that fig Newton or like that plum and spice kind of flavor. So it's got that going on and it's pretty good. I think for me I would probably call it maybe a 2 cheers. I think it's good. It's like good to try, and like I am enjoying it for sure. But I think I think when one of us had a pumpkin ale at one point, I think it was you, and you said like I would just want to try other ones, and that's kind of where I think this one falls, where it's like it's good at what it's doing, but it's not maybe exceeding amongst like the crowd of them. I would want to kind of like explore a couple of extras.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, because they are seasonal, so you can only get them every once in a while,
right?
And then it'd be nice to kind of try them all
for sure.
And if you do have a favorite, still like you probably want to try them all at that point, right? Like,
right.
I don't know.
A short little window that you have to get them out. Yeah, it's kind of like that. So it's good. Yeah, and I would definitely I would never turn it down or something like that. But I think if I was going to go out and buy another winter ale, I'd try another one.
Very nice. Cool. So that is our first winter ale.
Our first winter ale. It's got like this nice we talked a lot about these labels that are like the paper labels now that people are doing. But because it's white, it makes it feel like like it gives me a feeling of like snow-covered wood or something like that. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
It's very good marketing on the label.
It caught my eye too, right? Like,
Oh, I'm sure,
for
yeah.
just like walking by, because it's like a fairly simplistic label, which is
sort of minimalist.
which is
almost.
interesting.
Yeah.
Because all of these like craft breweries go hard on the art usually,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so it was just kind of like that
Space
stark
Station middle
white.
finger.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah, exactly. And it was just like this stark white,
Yeah.
like in the sea of everything. I was like, that's it.
That's it. That's my beer. Yeah.
What am I drinking?
You were drinking Oaken Eden Bourbon and Spire. And that is bourbon and spire, not bourbon inspired or something like that. It's
Okay.
It is a bourbon. It's a straight bourbon. It lists on there that it's been aged for 2 years, so it's kind of making the minimum requirement for a bourbon. I wanted you to try this one because this bourbon isn't like, it's not like awful, but I think it has like I know. Drink it. I just think it has like some maybe issues or rooms for improvements, opportunities, that I wanted to like talk about and kind of highlight. And so this, it's a 60% corn mash, 36% rye. It comes from Indiana MGP, who supplies. They're basically like a big distiller that doesn't like market their own stuff. Like they supply, and this is
gotcha.
kind of common. But they supply to people who mix. And so like Dickel buys from them. Redemption High Rye, who I had before, buys from them.
Yeah.
And then actually Angel's Envy comes from one of like their nicer blends also.
That was like your first, first whiskey. On
It
the
was,
episode.
yeah.
Okay, I remember that.
Very first one. And so they buy like a high rye. Like 7 year or something like that from MGP, and then they finish it in like a port barrel. But that's not what these guys did. These guys bought like their cheaper end, 2 year.
Gotcha.
And so it's called Bourbon and Spire because it has like this toasted spire in there that I don't think actually is maybe kind of a gimmick, but it looks really cool. Their idea is like it imparts like more flavor, and it's like, well,
Sure. Okay.
sure, right? I don't know if that's true, but it definitely looks cool. So in the nose, it'll have like some sort of like subtle pumpkin spice flavors, and then in the body it'll be sort of like cinnamon and cornbread. And I think in the finish is where I was having trouble with it. So when I tasted this the first time, I got sort of like an uncomfortable, like almost like acrid kind of burning, like burnt flavor at the end. And
It's weird.
Yeah, it's sort of weird. I think they're trying to like force a spice profile, and I'm wondering if like the Spire actually is like what is making that happen. But it's what it's sort of like is like they're trying to like overpoweringly like force a spice flavor in to like give it complexity. And for me, it just ended up, like I said, like the burnt garlic is what it reminded me of, where I was like, I really don't like that.
Yeah, it's not fantastic.
Yeah. So what I did is I poured you 2 here.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
The first one is just straight, and the second one I watered down a little bit. And I think when I watered it down, it really improved it. It helped that like sort of acrid flavor like fall back, and it helped like the sort of like cinnamon and cornbread and like the other things that are like kind of I think you're meant to taste for that to kind of come forward and not be like impeded by this overbearing like burnt flavor.
Yeah. So I've only tasted the non-watered down version, and yeah, it kind of hits you. And it,
Yeah.
like I
It's
couldn't
an
taste anything except for like alcohol, and then when I swallow it, like I don't know if it felt burnt. It just felt off.
Yeah.
Like I don't. Maybe I'm very sophisticated with my whiskey tasting. You can tell, but just
I think,
like,
but you're right though. It's sort of empty flavor,
Yeah, I feel at this point like I taste the whiskey like when I drink it and then when I swallow it, and both of them are just not great.
A little bit off, yeah. So hopefully that's a little bit better. I think it still makes it to where I wouldn't like totally like recommend the whiskey because I think it was like $40 or something. But to me, it got it to the point where it's like, okay, I'm enjoying this as much as I would like enjoy like a slice of apple pie from Denny's or something. Right? Like this is an acceptable form of apple pie.
Take what's given to you.
Exactly. That's when it was like watered back a little bit. I think it kind of opened it up and helped.
Yeah, the watering back does help it a little bit. I can taste something.
Yeah,
actually,
that's good.
so still not my favorite.
And that's totally fair.
Yeah, cool bottle though, which is
really cool
which is
bottle,
kinda
really
fun.
cool idea. But I think it's like I put this one in front of you as a chance to say like, hey, if you're tasting things like this in a bourbon, sometimes it seems like people who are new into whiskey will like turn your nose up at you. They're like, oh, I drink it straight, right? Like they're exactly like they're like, oh no, I'll have it straight. Like you can't water it down. And it's actually very common especially for like experienced tasters and even reviewers to water back a little bit to back off an alcohol flavor so they can kind of feel and taste the like underlying tones a little bit more.
Do they do both? So like, do they taste it
Yes.
and then water it down and taste it again?
Yes.
Oh, that's
generally,
cool.
yes.
Okay, yeah.
And the way I did it for you is just by adding distilled or filtered water. Like you can also do it by adding an ice cube, but if it gets cold, then first of all, you won't be able to smell it. You already will be able to smell less in the watered down version because it drops the vapor pressure. And so you won't be able to like find as much of a smell in a watered down version. But putting ice in it and cooling it will do that even more. And then again, it will cool your taste buds and they will like be less sensitive and less able to kind of explore the flavors of it. And so like sometimes that's like I enjoy like Crown Royal with an ice cube and things like that. Sometimes that's acceptable. But for this one, I just used the water so that it wouldn't get cold.
Is there any like rule of thumb of when you would use water versus ice?
If it tastes good.
Okay, I like it.
I guess if it's like complex enough, you know, it would like justify water. And if it's like relatively simple and you're just wanting to like water it down so that it's a little bit easier to drink, a little bit easier to enjoy, then sometimes ice is fine.
Cool. Yeah. Maybe I'll try the bone snapper with water next time. I'll try that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think
you
it would
just
do well.
straight from the tap.
I mean, I don't, but you can. We live in Indiana, so I'd be careful.
Yeah, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I don't drink tap water on a normal day. So.
That's fair. That's fair.
So, anyways, yep, that is Oak and Eden, Bone and Spire.
It's definitely interesting. I like the bottle a lot.
Yeah, right. It's a really cool idea.
I
Neat
would.
little gimmick.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, so this may be our first one. Cheers for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, it's not. And what I do really like about the whiskey realm is kind of the spice in it, and I feel it's lacking here, especially when they're trying to push it.
Yeah.
So, this is probably a one cheers for me.
Yeah. And like I said, I think that's fine. It's only like a 2-year. That's the other thing that probably could have helped with some of those acrid flavors is just aging longer. You know, it's only a 2-year. It definitely has problems. I'm kind of with you in that I probably wouldn't buy the bottle again.
Yeah, especially for $40.
Yeah.
Right? Like for $40, you can buy a lot of different types of whiskey for $40.
For sure.
Go try something else.
Go try something else. Yeah.
So,
for sure.
Aw.
That's okay.
It's fine. Hey,
we had like a really successful time with our drinks last time.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I mean? So now we're like back on average.
Yeah. I guess it gets the job done.
It gets the job done. That's my I hate myself. I'm gonna drink whiskey.
This is after you've had 4 or 5 of another
one, right. This is the whiskey that I drink when I want it to hurt.
So yeah, that's what's been on our flights. Let's hop on over to what's been on our minds. Before we do that, we got not really an announcement, but we want to plug kind of our next book episode here soon. Dalton, you want to go ahead and do that?
Yeah, so we've done a couple of like individual analyses on like we did Ender's Game is kind of like a short novel to consume before an episode. So the next book episode that we'll be doing is going to be the Mistborn: The Final Empire, so the first of the Mistborn trilogy. So we're not going to cover the whole trilogy, we're just going to cover the first book. That book is, I think we've talked about it, it's pretty easy to consume. It's not a super hard, first of all, just book to get into and enjoy, but also just in terms of length. It's definitely something that you can tackle if you have time over the next, that episode will come out 5 weeks from now. Because normally it would be 4, but we're taking a week off for the holidays.
We have a book 3 Mistborn spoiler channel on our Discord.
Yeah.
We may want to put just like a normal and just like
for sure.
And then we'll plug it kind of on social media and everything. But
yep,
just so you guys know, start reading.
Heads up.
It's a really good quick read, which is nice.
For sure.
And it's going to be a really good one over like the holidays. It's
if
you're traveling, grab the audiobook.
Yeah, exactly.
The audiobook is really good. I love the audiobook from this one.
Yeah, the audiobook does a great job. We're asked for it for Christmas and slammed through it in like 3 weeks, I think you would have something like that.
Which is way too long.
Yep. Oh no, they would. 5 weeks. 5 weeks. You'll have 5 weeks from Christmas. Because we'll release this episode on December 24th.
Tomorrow's Christmas.
Tomorrow's Christmas. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Santa's coming tonight.
Oh my god.
Anyways.
Yeah. So let's transition. Dalton, what's been on your mind other than that?
So I've been really excited to talk about this book. I've been reading the Legacy of Orisha series. The first book in that is Children of Blood and Bone, which is like a badass name.
Yeah, that's sick.
Right? The follow-up book is Children of Virtue and Vengeance. Like
that's better. It's not better, but
it's not better. It's still really
good. It's still good.
It's a planned trilogy, and so Children of Blood and Bone came out in 2018, early 2018. The next one came out in like late 2019, so about a year and a half later. So it is an unfinished trilogy, but we have hope.
Yeah, well, we're getting there.
We have hope that it'll
it's
be
not like
soon.
the first book was written in 2008.
Yeah.
Looking at you.
Name of the wind. Anyway, so Todi Adeyemi, who's like a Nigerian American woman, and so this book is set. It's sort of set in Nigeria, not officially, but like that would be kind of like the feeling of the backdrop. It has a hybrid magic system. It feels a lot like Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, sick! I love it already.
Yeah, right. I know, like you're gonna say that, and it's like, oh, I love bending, and so it will have those core 4 magic users, but then it has, I think, a total of 10 or something like that. So it adds on top of that. The main character is a necromancer.
Oh,
which is badass. To have
cool.
like,
Is it a hero or like an anti-hero?
oh yeah, she's a hero. Yeah.
Oh,
And actually,
interesting.
it's
Okay.
a really cool twist on necromancy
Okay.
that's like not considered an evil thing. Like they are considered to be allowing spirits to like pass into the afterlife by like giving them a task to do on the physical world.
Oh, that's cool.
And so they like
Yeah.
ask them to do something as like, hey, I need this from you. I need you to like run at that guy or like go like sink that ship for me or whatever.
Oh, okay. Those are two very different tasks. I'm just saying.
Right, two very different tasks. And like the main character can like ask spirits to do that, and then they like do that for her. And then there's sort of like a spiritual leader as being the type of mage that's like able to help people into the afterlife and that sort of thing.
That's
So,
really cool.
yeah, it's a really cool twist on like necromancy sounds like evil, and like they're definitely not. The book also has like a Zuko. I was talking about Avatar. It has like a very Zuko-like character who I think she's just doing like some really cool stuff with.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying him a lot.
Is it like a high fantasy setting or?
It would be like a regular
Steampunk?
fantasy setting.
Okay, cool.
So again, that distinction would be like high fantasy would include like elves and orcs and like everything else. This would be like just a human setting with like magic thrown into it.
Cool. Okay. Very cool.
But she does a really good job with world building. Like all of the, at the start, it just tells you like the book intros and it tells you what all the mages are because they each have like a god associated with them. And the pantheon is like really active in the story. And so it's like the flame users, they're called burners, you know, and the necromancers are called reapers.
Okay.
And then there's like people who have control over like a life force. And so like they're either healers or they're cancers because they can cause like disease and that sort of thing.
It sounds like almost a mix of like Stormlight Archives and Mistborn.
It has
right?
that
Like,
feeling, yeah.
Because like Mistborn, you got the dichotomy of, you know, you can enhance physical,
Right.
enhance mental. And then like Stormlight Archives has the 10
Yeah.
different orders, and then they each have like a kind of a god associated with them.
Yeah, it kind of
So-
feels that way where they're like praying to like this specific god, the god of death, who's like Oya or something like that. The audiobook is awesome because she has this like really thick Nigerian accent.
Nice.
Yeah, and so
She reads it?
I'm sorry?
She narrates it?
Oh no, but she got a narrator
Oh, that's
who
cool.
was.
Oh,
yeah.
nice. Very cool.
And I don't know. So I really enjoyed it. It was named to time. She was named to Time's 100 most influential people of 2020
Wow. Okay.
because of like the work that she does like through the book and outside of the book. Like she's really active in social justice and Black Lives Matter and that sort of thing. And so the book kind of highlights like themes of oppression specifically like for Black people. And so it's sort of highlighting or bringing that to light, I guess. It does like a really good job of just kind of like showcasing that. I mean, actually from both sides because there's characters who are on the oppressed side and characters that are on the oppressor side. Like I said, the Zuko-like character.
Cool. Very
Who
cool.
kind of has to like struggle with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really highly recommend it. This is one that it's been a while since I've like got this excited about. I think the last time was actually probably like Children of Time. I talked about Children of Time a while back.
Yeah.
Where I was like, so it's another Children of book.
Noticing a pattern.
Noticing a pattern, right? But I got really excited about it. So Children of Blood and Bone. I highly recommend it. It's really enjoyable.
Cool. I'll check it out.
For sure. So yeah, that's actually just been what's on my mind. I'm like almost done with the second book. So that's
Okay.
what I've been doing.
How long are they? Are they easy to kind of consume?
I think the one I'm on right now is like what is it? I think it's around 15 hours.
Okay,
or
that's
something
not
like
bad
that,
at all.
So it's not
Yeah.
bad. We talked about Ender's Game having like no fluff. Like this is a no fluff book. Like every
Perfect,
scene,
yeah.
every time she will like introduce something that's gonna be like a story arc. I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna happen. And I'm like, oh wow, it'll be like really cool to see like that like build to that. And like in the next scene, it's happening. Like you're like, oh, we're there. Like, so there's like it's always like it's kind of constantly moving. So those 15 hours in the audiobook are like pretty jam packed.
Awesome. Seems really cool. I just keep building up a queue of things I need to listen to.
I know. You gotta catch up, man. I want to be able to talk about these books with you.
Yeah, I know. Bad.
What about you? What's been on your mind?
So last book episode, I had started the Stormlight Archives to get ready for Rhythm of War, and I had decided that I was going to reread all the Stormlight Archives before Rhythm of War came out, and then how I had vastly underestimated how much time it would take. So I vastly underestimated how much time because I'm still reading. I'm about halfway through Oathbringer, which is the third book, the book that precedes Rhythm of War.
Yeah, you're getting close.
So since I talked about that last time, I'm not going to talk about it this time.
Fair enough.
And what I'm going to do instead is talk about the crazy shit that's happening in the Star Wars universe because it's Star Wars episode and
on topic.
Yeah, I guess 2 weeks ago, a week ago from the recording, 2 weeks ago from when you're listening to this, the release of this, Disney announced like 9 new shows / movies for Star Wars in the next 2-3 years. Which is
crazy.
It is crazy.
They're like, oh, y'all like The Mandalorian.
Oh,
we got more of that.
Oh, I'm gonna print me some money. But so I'm gonna kind of walk through just the shows. So there are some the movies. So like Rogue Squadron, which will be really cool. That'll be like, I don't know if it's a theatrical release, but it's kind of like Luke's TIE fighter group was Rogue Squadron. And so I think I doubt it would have Luke. I'd be really surprised if it had Luke in it. And then they have some other movies coming out, but I'm going to focus on the TV shows.
Cool.
Because time. So I ranked these in order from what I'm least excited about, which I'm still really excited about, to what I'm most excited about.
Okay.
And so the first one that they announced is Visions. Sorry. The first one that I'm going to talk about is Visions. So Visions is only a 10 episode series, and it's just telling a different story from around the universe. So each episode will be its own standalone thing. The interesting thing is it's going to be in a Japanese anime style.
Nice.
So that'll be kind of interesting, because I think of like Clone Wars and Rebels is not necessarily like a Japanese anime style. They're kind of like cartoony.
Yeah.
Whereas,
like they are 3D animation, but it's not like Avatar.
Right. Exactly. And so I think that this will be an interesting take on it.
Yeah.
The next one that I have down is A Droid Story, which is going to follow R2-D2 and 3PO. So that'll be just kind of fun to watch.
Yeah.
The next one that I'm excited about is called Andor. So this is following Cassian Andor, who is part of the Rebel mission to steal the Death Star in Rogue One. So he's the really handsome guy.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'm really ashamed that like I knew who you were talking about.
yeah, right?
That guy.
No, it's not Adam Driver. But yeah, so that'll be interesting. I love that setting, right?
Yeah.
Right before, and I think I've said it before, like the movie is the OG trilogy is, the movies are way better. I think the story in the prequels is significantly way better.
Yeah.
And I really like the arc between the two, where, it's like the rebellion is starting and that like scrappy. So I think like you'll probably see like Saw Gerrera, who you saw in Rogue One, and you see him in Clone Wars as well. He's the guy with the respiratory and like walks all weird.
Oh,
the cyborg.
Yeah.
But Tony Gilroy, who wrote Rogue One, will be overseeing this one too.
Oh, awesome.
So Rogue One, I think, is my second favorite Star Wars.
I was about
movie.
to say it's very easily in my top 3.
Yeah.
Of all like Star Wars like films.
Yeah,
it's really good.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, so that's exciting.
Yeah. The next one is another animation, which is The Bad Batch. So if you've watched Clone Wars,
But is this like Suicide Squad, but like Star Wars style?
kind of, yeah. So this is I've seen this online called Clone Wars Season 8.
Oh, okay, cool.
There's a meme of like the Trojan horse.
Yeah.
And it's just like The Bad Batch, and then it's like Dave Filoni, who like wrote the Clone Wars, and then like inside is like Clone Wars Season 8. It's like, so if you've watched the Clone Wars, The Bad Batch is follows like the super soldiers that were part of Clone Force 99, which are just like incredible soldiers. So they have like really smart people, and they're just like genetically modified clones.
Gotcha.
And they're just like a lot of fun like to watch. So it'll be interesting to have a show around them.
Cool.
Next one is Lando. So this is kind of the spiritual successor to Solo, I would assume.
But as a show?
Yeah.
Because you're still doing shows.
Yeah, it's going to be a show.
Yeah.
And
is it gonna be Childish Gambino?
I have it in my notes. I was like, really want to see Childish Gambino. I don't know. So I don't really know when this is taking place.
Okay. Yeah.
So it may be a little bit older. In Rise of Skywalker, they hinted that Lando kind of helped Luke track some Sith.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm wondering if that's going to be around that.
Gotcha.
And so Lando would be older around, after Jedi.
That's interesting. Then I wonder if Luke would be in that one.
Yeah, I don't know.
If they do that storyline, maybe he would be.
I think it would be a bold choice to bring Luke back.
It would be really bold because it couldn't be Mark Hamill, probably.
No, yeah.
So
a couple more. So the next one is Rangers of the New Republic. So this is a spinoff of The Mandalorian, which kind of follows the downfall of the Empire after Return of the Jedi.
Okay. And
they're kind of thinking, if you've watched any of The Mandalorian, they think that Cara Dune is going to be a main character she was in season 1. So I think you saw season 1.
Yeah, I've seen season 1, and
so she's the shock trooper.
So I like to think that I contributed to this happening because we are in the group that got Disney Plus, watched The Mandalorian, and then canceled Disney Plus.
Like, we're not making that mistake again.
Right, exactly. They're like, we're going to release 9 new TV shows.
Yeah.
You're going to have to keep it. So you're welcome. But yes, that's why I haven't watched the second season of Mandalorian yet.
I love it. What I'm really excited about is Filoni and Jon Favreau, who wrote Mandalorian, are the ones doing this one.
Yeah.
So it's going to be good.
For sure. Moving
on to The Acolyte, which, if the last two didn't have characters that I love in them, this is my favorite. This probably is my favorite character agnostic. So this takes place 200 years before The Phantom Menace.
Wow.
Yep.
Way back in time.
And it follows the Jedi in their heyday.
Oh, that'll be really
it's
cool
gonna
to
be
explore.
really cool. I
Yeah.
remember it's kind of like the birthing
Yoda
of
will
the
only
Jedi.
be old instead of super old.
Yeah, Yoda will be
700?
700,
Something? Yeah.
650-ish.
650, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see him in his prime.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that. I think we're gonna get to see a lot of like Jedi lore, which is something that's not really delved into a lot, like outside of Clone Wars and Rebels.
Right.
But like,
You're going to see the younglings?
oh, rip. The picture, which I don't know if this was a canonized picture for the show, but it had a Wookiee Jedi.
Oh,
which will
very
be really cool. Which you meet a Wookiee Jedi or a Wookiee Padawan in Clone Wars,
right?
Which is kind of cool, but rip. So the last two are really exciting. The second to last one is Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is significantly worse of a name than just Kenobi.
Yeah, that's like the thing right now is to name shows one word.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, the Kenobi.
Right.
So
just Kenobi.
Yeah.
No articles.
Yeah. So Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's taking place about 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, and they're bringing back Ian McGregor and Hayden Christensen. So he'll play Darth Vader.
Ooh.
So
get excited.
Yeah. So
that's what's uncovered, or like not uncovered like revealed, but uncovered like has not been covered is like Vader in transition, right?
Yeah.
That like there's not a lot there, so that's almost even more exciting than just like seeing what Obi-Wan has been doing this whole time.
Exactly.
Ben Kenobi.
Yeah, and you get very little
right
Kenobi in Rebels.
Okay.
It kind of closes up some arcs there. So I'm wondering if we're gonna get to see them meet, because in the not the Force. Oh God. Ooh. Because in A New Hope, Vader actually says, "This is a presence that I haven't felt since the last time I was in the presence of my master," which leaves it open ended to saying that they could have met again. So I don't know. That'd be interesting. It'd be kind of weird. I think. Yeah. I don't know, but
I think one thing that the show will pivot around is Hayden Christensen, and if he can, like, because I don't know, he's just such an iffy actor, to be honest. You know, and like it's hard because like the writing was so bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like it's not like he had...
I blame the writing, not Hayden.
Yeah, for sure. Like, but I've also seen Jumper, and like he's not excellent.
Yeah.
You know. So I don't know, but he's older now, and I haven't seen anything from him since like Star Wars was coming out. You know. So
yeah,
it'll just be interesting to see if he can stand up, because Ian McGregor is obviously like awesome.
Yeah.
You know, can he really like stand up next to him after all this time? We'll see.
I don't know. And then finally, the last one, just because I love it, is Ahsoka.
Yep.
So this is written by my boy Dave Filoni, because
he's got like a third of these.
Oh yeah, no, he's crazy.
Yeah.
Dude's a machine.
Yeah.
So this will be a limited series as well. So
cool.
There's going to be, closed ended. Yeah. And what's really cool about it's going to follow at the same time as The Mandalorian.
Okay.
And what's really cool is that The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and then Rangers of the New Republic are going to be kind of like the Marvel series that they were doing a couple years ago, where they're all kind of like parallel timelines, and they're meeting to do like a finale.
Oh, that's right. They did that with the Jessica Jones and I forget what they're called. I'm down on my Marvel lore.
But yeah, so I'm super excited for that, because that's
really
going to be some crazy stuff.
Yeah. Which
probably means that they have like ideas for it. My current theory is it's going to be a final battle with Thrawn, which is the blue guy. If you haven't watched any of the ancillary TV shows or anything, or Thrawn was really big into Legends.
Gotcha.
So the books. So
gotcha. Cool.
I'm so excited, dude. I like. I'm just like, I got so pumped, and they like didn't like tier these. Like they released like all of these within like 5 minutes of each other, and they just like dumped it on Twitter, and they're like, have fun.
Well, yeah, because I thought that they announced it like at it was like a shareholder meeting or something. I mean, it was like some sort of like company thing of like, oh, by the way, here's what we're doing, and then like right after that, they just like started dumping all this information about it. Everybody's like, wait, what?
more.
Yeah. What a time.
Okay, I'm really excited. I'm also slightly nervous because they're doing a lot.
They are doing a lot, yeah.
And I'm afraid that they're doing too much, but we'll see. They have a lot of really good people working on it.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful, but also a little concerned.
Yeah. Well,
but I will consume it all.
Are they? Yeah, I'm gonna watch. Are they coming out like in a like close to one another, or is this like, hey, this is what we're doing over the next like 10 years or something?
I think this is 3 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I think Rogue Squadron is planned for 2023.
Okay.
which is the movie.
Yeah.
And some of them are kind of open, but I do think that Mandalorian, I'm like 95% sure is only going to be 3 seasons.
Okay.
And if they're tying in Rangers and Ahsoka, then they're probably all going to be next year.
Right.
And then I know the Kenobi series has already started filming.
Okay.
And so
Cool.
it's coming out soon.
Coming.
It'll be here sooner than we know it. So I am pumped, dude.
Yeah.
I am so pumped. Oh, okay. Well, now let's talk about.
We're gonna put our Star Wars excitement aside for like 5 minutes, maybe 10.
Yeah, we'll talk fast. Okay. So let's hop into the icebreaker. So we got this question from Instagram user M_Sirocco, and he asked, if you could have any sidekick / companion be your sidekick or companion, who would it be? So this could be a human or robot or animal, and got to figure that out.
Yeah, I gotta figure that. So like, I'm assuming like a known character is what.
Yeah, that's how I'm reading it.
Like
yeah.
I'm not like I want a fox or whatever.
I want the fox from Fox and the Hound.
Form of an ice menorah.
You got one? I got one.
If you got one, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, we said we were gonna pause the Star Wars type. I want R2-D2 right by my side, man. I want him so bad,
man.
Like, just like he is so handy to have around.
Handy's a good word for it.
Yeah, and I think 3PO kind of comes along with them, which is, a nice little bonus. But like,
yeah, it's like a free translator.
yeah, exactly.
You speak every language. That's always a nice feat to take.
Yeah, but so R2, we'll get into it a little bit more, but R2 kind of grew up as Anakin's droid, then transitioned to Luke's droid and got dissed hardcore by Kenobi. I've never seen this droid before. It's like, okay, you like lived with him for years.
He's like,
years.
bro, do me like that.
And then, they kind of pick it up in the sequel trilogy, and
Right.
it follows Rey around. So, and he's just, he's fixing trash compactors. He's, making elevators go the right and wrong way at some
Yep.
points in the prequels. And he's like, he's got that, sense of humor, I think, that a droid. And it's like it's an interesting droid because it really does have free will, right?
Yeah.
Like R2-D2 is a lovable character. It's not just a programmable droid.
Right.
Which like,
You got personality.
it's got
You
personality.
got a little sass.
He's got sass. I don't know if we've talked about it on here. He does like the lightning, and so he's a Sith.
R2 is a Sith. Prove me wrong.
Confirmed. But yeah, no, I think R2 would be really fun to have around.
Yeah,
So.
I could see that. That's a good. Like you said, he's versatile.
Yeah.
The only thing is he's got to keep up with you. He's got a little bit of a mobility problem. He's like Grandpappy R2.
He's got like jetpacks in his feet, man.
He does have jetpacks.
Yeah,
When
he's
he
good.
whips out the jetpacks, he's getting it on. Like it's game time. There's like a couple that like very quickly came to mind to me, and I'm trying to figure out if I like want to actually use those, or if it's like is that have I used like that character too much? Like I talk all the time about Favreau from Red Rising, like that's like the first one that comes to mind. But I've used him for other icebreakers, so I think I'm gonna let that one go.
But just mention it.
But it's just honorable mention. We were
Spirit
just talking
Island.
about like right, exactly. Severo always with me. We were just talking about Mando, so like the child comes to mind.
Oh yeah.
Of like, can I have like a little baby Yoda just follow me around? Like that'd be pretty neat. I think. We haven't. It's been a long time since we've read this, but The Lies of Locke Lamora from the Gentleman Bastard.
Oh yeah.
Series, it's like. We haven't talked
It
about
has
that
been
one.
a long time.
It's been a long time since we read that. I really even talked about it. I don't remember if we even talked about it here. But it's basically Gentleman Bastards are sort of like a band of thieves led by a character named Locke Lamora. And so that's where The Lies of Locke Lamora come from. And it's very like Ocean's 11. Like they're like pulling heists and and it's set in like maybe like medieval Venice kind of setting.
Yeah.
And so they're like they're performing like these big heists on like nobles and like giving back to the poor and that sort of thing. Like that's kind of the setting of the book. And he has like a best friend named John Tannen, who I think is a really awesome sidekick.
Yeah, he is.
He basically like he is very much like Big John or whatever his name is from Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Where he's just kind of like the muscle, kind of like the enforcer. But throughout the series, they like explore like first of all, there's just a lot of really good characters in the because it's not just that book. The Lives of Locke Moore is the first one, but there's 3 and a 4th one coming out now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, that's coming out.
It's kind of interesting because each one of them is almost like a complete story.
Yeah, they stand alone.
And then there's an overall story arc, which is kind of nice. But like you can pick the heist one, you can pick the pirate one, you can pick the I think theater one is the third one.
Yeah.
So it's like different settings, and like I've pulled a lot of D&D inspiration from those books.
It's rife with that for sure. But John has like this. They've like known each other, like they've been like boyhood friends kind of thing, and so he's this character with just like extreme. Like loyalty, you know, and where like Locke is the one with like all the charisma, and he's like the one that's like kind of always getting them into trouble and that sort of thing, and like Jean is the one that like kind of like grounds them. He's like focused on keeping them like safe and healthy and that sort of thing.
Are you saying you have a lot of charisma? Because you do.
Yeah. And I need a John in my life who can keep me safe from bullies. But yeah, and he's also like he's a super skilled like thief. He has all these like all of them do have all these like different skills that he but he also is like very good at like manipulation sometimes through like intimidation and that sort of thing. So I just think the series does a really good job with him, and I really like him as a character.
Yeah, totally. That's a great choice. Yeah. We have not talked about them in a while.
It's been a long time.
I do really like those books though. They're just fun.
Especially the pirate one.
Yeah. Anything with pirates is going to be fun.
Yeah, for sure. That was like, I remember reading that in a time in my life where I was like saturated with pirates. Like I was watching like Black Sails, I think it is, on, it's not on HBO, it's on something, but it's a pirate show, right?
Yeah,
and I was like reading that book, I was just very like pirate heavy at the time.
Let's do pirates.
But yeah, that is exciting because I think the third book of that, like the first one came out in like 2006 or 7, and then it was like 2009 or 10. And like 2013, and then it's been like a gap. He like stopped writing, and then he's like gotten back to it.
Cool, that's really exciting.
2021, the Republic of Thieves, I think is what it's called.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait, no, that was the third one.
Yeah.
It's, here it is, the Thorn of Ember or something. It's like a name from the book.
So, okay, cool.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited. Dun dun dun.
Dude, you're gonna get Disney to shut us.
Yeah, no, sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry. Never mind.
Cut.
Well, let's hop into the main topic and talk about Star Wars.
Let's do it, buddy. Here we go.
A New Hope.
A New Hope.
So
and the other two. We're not just doing A New Hope.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I was. Yeah. So, 30-second summary. We're starting out with the 30-second summary of these
30-second summaries
of the 7-8 hours of movies.
Yeah.
all crammed into one.
We did Lord of the Rings. We can do this.
Yeah. That was like 40 hours of books.
So. Like we can do it. Let's see. So we'll do it where we time each other again. We'll have 30 seconds. Do you want to go first or second?
I don't know. Heads or tails?
Heads.
Flip a coin. It's tails.
Oh, man. Dude, are you looking at an empty phone screen?
No, I had Siri do it.
Okay, fair enough.
So, does that mean I go first?
It means you get to choose.
You go first.
Okay, cool. I will go first.
Okay, you need to see this.
So did you practice yours again?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I did not. Again, I did not practice. I like wrote down my bullet points of like, here's what I think I want to talk about.
Okay, so I'm gonna hold it so that you can see.
Okay, but let me preface. I think if you haven't watched Star Wars,
are you already making excuses?
No. I'm setting the scene.
Oh, okay.
I think
this is the opening crawl to your 30 seconds.
That's right. This is the opening crawl. I think I'm going to speak in terms of analogy to like fantasy worlds that we kind of already know. Okay, so I'll
like it already.
I'll leave it at that. But I think that's just a preface. If I'm not using terms, if you have watched it and I'm not using terms you're expecting, that's where that's coming from.
That's fair. Okay.
Right.
Let me know when you're ready. That was so gross. We're leaving that in.
Please cut that out.
We need a not safe for work tag.
That's right. All right. Count me in.
3, 2, 1, go.
All right, there's a princess in a tower. Her familiar rescues or recruits a fighter, a rogue, a sorcerer, a barbarian, and a droid. They save her, but the sorcerer dies. The paladin takes levels in sorcery. The Death Star blows up. War breaks out. They split the party. Party is captured. The BBEG is the paladin's dad. Big surprise. Fighters, prestigious to Eldritch Knight. Reunites the party. The Nat 20 to seduce the BBEG-1. He fights BBEG-2. Death Star blows up round 2. No trade agreements were negotiated. Oh, I didn't.
Damn.
I used my time. I had 5 seconds left.
Yeah, you had 5 seconds. That was awesome. I loved it. That was awesome. That was really fun. I like that paladin takes levels in Sorcerer.
I was happy with that. BBEG, do you remember what that? It's like big bad end guy, I think.
Evil guy.
Evil guy, big bad evil guy. It's like the big final boss that
Yeah.
you fight in like commonly in D&D campaigns and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Nat 20 to seduce. All right.
Okay, don't let me see that timer. It's going to stress me out.
All right, so you just want me to yell out, stop.
Yeah.
All right. You ready?
Yeah, count me in.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
So Luke likes to farm moisture until he finds some lovable droids who lead him to this crazy old dude who takes him to what used to be a planet. Luke learns the Force, Obi loses the high ground, and little hotshot flies in to save the day. He kisses his sister on an ice planet before going to see Yoda and gets trained. Han and Leia go to see Gambito in the clouds where they actually get trapped by Vader. Han gets frozen. Oh yeah, Luke's back, fights his daddy, and loses a hand. With an insane plan, they free Han, feed Boba to the Sarlacc. But wait, there's another Death Star. They fight alongside some teddy bears, destroy the shield. Vader and Luke tango again. Anakin yeets the Emperor into a reactor, and the second Death Star is destroyed by Wedge and Troy.
Nice, dude. You had like a second and a half left.
Oh wow, yeah.
Anything else you want to say? All right, your time's up.
Oh damn. And we were worried about that one.
We were worried about that one.
We're just getting better, I think.
We're getting better. I basically cut down all of Empire Strikes Back and just captured it.
Nothing happens in that movie. So.
Right. Yeah, a bunch happens in that movie. Split the party. That's
Yeah,
the most important thing that happens.
Yeah, that was the hardest part about like the Lord of the Rings is trying to follow the 12 timelines, the 12 story arcs that were going on.
Yeah,
Where this one wasn't that bad.
Yep.
But yeah, so if you haven't seen it, that's basically what happens.
Yeah. Now you're ready to listen to the rest of the podcast.
Awesome. So let's talk
Let's talk
about Star Wars.
Do you have somewhere you want us to start?
Well, okay,
There's
so
so
I'm
much
just,
to dive into.
yeah.
You know?
So let's just kind of give an overview. So Star Wars, which came out with A New Hope, which at the time was just called Star Wars.
Yeah.
Came out in 1977. That was followed up 3 years later by The Empire Strikes Back. And then Return of the Jedi proceeded 3 years after that, which that was a hell of a 6 years, dude. I'm like,
sure.
I wish I could have like seen that.
Yeah.
Because it exploded, right? George Lucas is a character, right? But like I have there's no way he could have known that Star Wars A New Hope could have sparked everything. Like there's 12 movies, there's 9 saga movies, 2 anthology movies, and then the movie we don't talk about, which is the Clone Wars, which is the predecessor to the TV series. I think it got like a 2% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like it was just,
man,
yeah, it was,
bad day.
it's rough. There's short films, there's 6 current TV shows, there's comics, books, theme parks, Legos.
Yep.
Like save the best for last. But I mean, just so much has gone into this, and like I really wish I could remember who said it. We'll quote it in the show notes, but like there was a time after 1983 when Jedi came out where they said you can throw a dart at a map of the world, and wherever it lands, they will have heard about Star Wars.
Wow,
which is crazy. And I think I've kind of talked about it in previous episodes where we have read like works of fiction where they reference Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like think how crazy that is. Star Wars is such an integral part of our life that it's a fiction work that's referenced in other works of fiction.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't know, like that just seems so meta and weird to me that it's just like Star Wars exists in all fiction now. Like
they reference it as casually as like baseball or like other
exactly.
things.
And so it's just like I love Star Wars. I just it's just
right up your alley.
It's right up my alley. And there's just so much content there, which is just really exciting.
For sure.
But yeah, I'm just really excited. I think what we're kind of going to do is go through some of the topics that we've discussed in the past, like with our podcast episodes that we kind of deep dived into a single topic. So we're going to hop through a couple of those. Anything that you wanted to do before we started that?
No.
So let's knock out some of the easy ones first.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll spend more time at the end on the big ones.
Narration. Do you have anything for narration?
So honestly, I don't, because when I think of narration, I think of like a written work, like I think of a novel or something like that. And so I didn't even think to like prepare anything like for this. So what did you have in terms of narration for the original trilogy? So
Lucas was talking to another one of his director friends where he confided, or I guess talked about how R2-D2 is the narrator of the story. So what he actually said is that all Star Wars films, which like the 9 Skywalker sagas, is told by R2-D2 100 years after the events of Return of the Jedi.
Oh,
which
funny.
is interesting because he's always there. Like
Yeah.
he's in every single movie.
Yeah.
He's in all of those. He's throughout the Clone Wars. You see him a little bit in Rebels. And so like he's telling the story. And I kind of wonder if this is why he's always portrayed as like the hero of this. He's always saving the day.
Yeah.
It's like, well, he's the one telling it. So, but I thought that was kind of interesting.
Did he actually like open the elevator?
Yeah.
Or did he embellish that a little bit?
Exactly. Was it really that close in the trash compactor?
Right.
Or
was it really a snake?
yeah. So yeah, that was just kind of fun. It has a little holes, right? He was asleep for half of The Force Awakens, but like,
Sure.
he could have been filled in or whatever. But I just thought that was
Yeah.
kind of fun. It was just like you like look back, I was like, oh, that's just kind of a fun factoid.
R2D2. The
R2D2. Okay, so that's all I have on narration.
That's funny. All right, let's hop to magic.
Okay,
next
let's
then.
do that.
Magic, we talked about Star Wars in the Magic Systems episode is kind of classic soft magic. Mostly we're talking about the Force here. There's also like technology that's involved, right? Like light speed and hyperspace and the Death Star even as a form of technology. Like all those things kind of play in as soft magic in that they create mostly problems for the main characters. But primarily we're talking about the Force. But this is like an interesting, maybe exception is not the right word, but difference in a lot of soft magic that we see and that we normally see with soft magic systems that is not used by the main character, where the Force is. And so that was one thing I wanted to kind of like talk about with you. Is do you think like I think of at the end of A New Hope, like use the Force, Luke, right? Like,
Yeah.
He uses the Force and like Luke saves the day. Is that like too Deus Ex Machina? Like, is that too like we wrote in something to save the day, or like does it work within the Star Wars, I guess, setting?
I think it works as a plot device. I think that if you saw no other films other than A New Hope, I think it would feel a little bit more like that. But I let me preface this with saying, like, it's kind of interesting because throughout, if you're watching the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy, in the prequel trilogy, it's a much harder system, right? There are rules set in place and like there's schools and you know a lot more about the Force. Whereas in the original trilogy, which was the first one that came out, no one knows what's going on. And so it's just kind of like magic. It just kind of happens.
Yeah.
But then like you start to like understand once you've seen like all of them, you kind of understand what the Force is and what it can do and how, you have to trust and like it will guide you. And so I don't necessarily think it's too Deus Ex Machina in that sense. But like, I feel like if I was watching it for the first time, I would feel like, okay, like cool. They just did that.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really interesting about the Force is that there's not a lot of it in A New Hope.
Yeah.
Right. So like, which had to have taken some considerable restraint from Lucas, right? Like you got this entire magic system in
all
this
these
huge
ideas.
world,
Force lightning.
and just don't touch it.
Yeah.
And just hope that it gets picked up and that you get to do another movie.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's crazy. And
That is bold.
maybe that was a little bit of the play. Is like he was kind of dangling it to see what the power of the Force was.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh yeah, we want to see another one of those. Like we want to see more of that.
Yeah.
So maybe that was his play. So I think But to answer your question, in the grand scheme of things, not really. But like focused only on that, probably. Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. I think I thought about it a lot too, just in preparation for this episode. I think that the fact that it has been like it had been talked about and sort of built up over the course of the movie, even just looking at A New Hope, helps the case of it being not too like, oh, it's just magic saves the day or whatever. It definitely does still kind of like feel like that. But he also like has to go through a lot of trials to even get to the point where he can use magic to save the day. I think that helps too, right? Like Han has to come in and blow him away, So Like it's not like just like it's the final hour and I just use magic and it saves everything. Like he has to go through like legitimate fights without magic to like kind of earn his like way to that spot.
Yeah. I like that point. And also how it was shown that it couldn't have been done without the Force, right? Because like the first pass at it, they miss.
Yeah, that's
right.
true.
And then Luke comes in, little hotshot comes in and saves the day, which is a Weird Al reference for Anakin, actually. But that aside,
that's what I should have done in preparation for the episode. I should have listened to the American Pie, but like Weird Al version.
Yeah, the saga begins.
The saga begins. Yeah,
and then he has a Yoda one.
Oh yeah, YODA Yoda.
Y-O, yeah. Oh, I should know what song that rips off, but whatever. Lola, that's it. Yeah, I was trying to think of a 4-letter like name. I was like, Alex. That's not it.
It's not. Guys don't write songs about guys named Alex.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm sorry if your name is Alex and you're listening to the episode. It's just they don't write songs about guys named Dalton either.
Yeah, but Dalton will write a song about you if your name is Alex. Just let us know, and he'll do that for you.
It'll go Alex, Alex. It'll go like that. Anyways, this draw another parallel to Children of Blood and Bone, which I've been reading. It kind of does a similar thing, I feel like, where I'm not like spoiling, like it's not like magic saves the day at the end. That's not what I mean, but just this feeling of, in the first book, it sort of like lays the groundwork of what basically magic at the very start of the book. Magic does not exist. Magic is gone. And kind of the plot of the first book is the main character trying to bring magic back. And so it feels sort of like that with Luke, right? Where it's like the Force is gone, like the Jedi are gone.
Yeah.
And he's trying to kind of bring it back. And so he's kind of having to like learn it. And so in the first one, it's you only get these hints of what it maybe could be. And then later in the series, and now in the second book, Children of Virtue and Vengeance, is the one where it's kind of exploring what the magic system could be, right? And so like you're getting to see what the burners really could do, or the tiders really could do, who control water and all this stuff. I think that's one reason that it works, right?
Yeah, and that follows kind of Star Wars really closely, because it's this, mythos thing in, episode 4. Episode 5 is when he goes and gets his training from Yoda, right? And you start to see and understand what it can do. Yoda lifts the X-Wing out of the swamp, right?
Yeah.
Then in episode 6, which is a year after, in like chronological time, you see Luke as kind of like this Jedi master who like understands and can wield the Force to do what he wants.
Yeah,
and
he can do backflips. And
exactly. And so
jump real high, avoid a Sarlacc pit.
Yeah. But yeah, so I like that, and I'm wondering if the third book is kind of like the master.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I'm hoping.
Because that'll be really cool, because I really like that progression.
Yeah.
Because it's, tease, train, master.
Yeah, for sure. Even Avatar. We're drawing so many parallels. Even Avatar does that, right?
Yeah, it really does.
Bringing airbending back and all that.
One of the other things that we kind of talked about with magic systems is that with a soft magic system, there's really not a lot that's built around, or like the world is not influenced by the magic a lot. Yeah. Because not a lot of people are doing it. There's not like this many rules. Whereas, like I guess in this, I guess like in the storytelling of it, it's not. But the Force is what binds everything together, so it really does build the world.
That's right.
But let's hop into like our newest topic.
Yeah.
Which is world building.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the ways that Luke has built this fantastic, like a galaxy, worlds.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah. Because you're right. Like the Force doesn't really play out as influencing like individual, especially in the original trilogy. It doesn't play out as influencing like societies, or most people have either kind of forgotten about it. Like Han is kind of like cavalier about it, right? He talks about it as if it's like a myth and that sort of thing. So it's something that people are like aware of, but for the most part, people are living this life where it's sort of a dystopian society, it feels like, right? And I think that's where world building really excels in the original trilogy, because we talked about in the world building episode, it's not told to you, it's just shown to you, right? You're just like dropped into Luke repairing the water reclamation system.
Absolutely,
yeah. And you're like the very first scene, guns are like people are shooting at each other.
Yeah.
It's just, we would call that like the in media res, right?
Yeah.
Like you're in the middle of things.
Civil War.
War.
The opening crawl is literally the cut and paste textbook definition of in media res, right? like here's the situation. Go for it.
Yeah.
So you kind of understand, like, you don't necessarily know what's going on, because there are so many words in that opening crawl that you just don't know, right? They're made up words for Star Wars. So
that's a very good point. Yeah, like when I read it the first time, I knew what a Jedi was.
Right.
Because like I was a kid, it was the first time I had watched it, but I knew what a Jedi was.
Yeah.
I'd heard that term before.
Exactly. But like you can kind of get the gist of it. It grabs you. Yeah. And then it takes you to this remote planet, Tatooine, right? Which is this desert, desolate place.
Yeah.
And you're following Luke, and immediately you can connect with Luke.
Mm-hmm.
And what I really like about the world building and how Lucas did it, especially for the first movie that came out, is you get the big picture, and then you narrow your focus is narrowed to Luke, and then as Luke learns more about the galaxy, you learn more about the galaxy. So you're learning it in bite-sized pieces, which is nice.
Yeah.
And you can see like Luke's kind of freaking out, right? Like there's a lot going on. Like I think like when Luke undergoes that call to adventure by Obi-Wan, like, hey, like it literally says like, I need your help, Luke. She needs your help. I'm getting too old for this sort of thing. Right. And Luke is like, nah, Nah. It's like,
I got responsibilities, man.
yeah, he's like, which is like he had just been talking about how he needs to get off. But like as soon as he gets that call to adventure, he's like, no.
Yeah.
And what he says is like, I think the line is like, it's just such a long way from here. Right. Which like, you're just like, oh yeah, I can relate to that. Right. Like it's such a big step. Right. And then like Obi-Wan responds with, you must do what feels right, of course. And we know because Luke is the paladin that Leia, his sister / lover, needs his help.
Gross.
Disgusting. That was, I hope to God that they didn't know that when they did A New Hope. Like,
yeah, that wasn't part of the plan.
No, that was not part of the plan. But yeah, so then you go back and you see the horrible, gruesome scene of the just burned bodies.
Yeah.
And the amazingly accurate stormtroopers all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But then you board the Millennium Falcon with Han, and you get to go off to see more worlds, and you slowly build this this galaxy that Lucas has created.
Yeah. They also do he does a really good job of. We talk in the villains episode about Vader, and obviously we're going to talk more about Vader, but just. You get the feeling of like, oh, this is the oppression. This is the Empire. Like, why we think that's bad, right? He's over here choking people, and and they have like this really scary armor, and they have scary guns that you find out that they don't know how to use. But that's not the point. There's all these
7 foot tall,
right, big hats,
yeah,
clean, just even the way it looks and feels. It's very organized, and it's obvious that they have like resources, they have the funding, they have the organization and the structure, and then it switches to show again Tatooine, right? And you're seeing the bar, right? The bar scene, and all the smugglers, and you're like, oh, okay, like there's this huge oppressive organization that's trying to control everything, and then there's these underground societies that are kind of like existing because the galaxy is too big of a place to police,
Right, yeah. And, Tatooine's the furthest planet from the sun, right? Like, if there's a center of the galaxy, Tatooine is on the other side of it.
Yeah, it's not Tatooine. And the beauty is that none of it's said. It's just all, like, it's even just in the staging. It's just the way that the scenes look. And your mind kind of interprets it, and you're like, okay, this is how this is going to work.
The shiny empire.
Yeah, exactly.
With the music that kind of, like, drives it home, which is another, like, phenomenal part of this series is just the music. I just need to say that.
Respect.
Yeah, respect. But yeah, like you were saying, like the shiny, like you can like see reflections in the stormtroopers. Yeah. And then like, when you progress even further into the series, when you're looking at the rebels, like they're covered in dirt. And they're cloth rather than like the shiny plastic.
Right.
And it's just like
their mom stitched it together.
Yeah, exactly. And you can tell, right? You can tell who the oppressor and who the oppressed is. Yeah. Which not a spoiler from Mandalorian, but it's cool to watch through the Mandalorian and see those roles reversed. Because like when you see stormtroopers in the Mandalorian, they're disheveled, they're dirty. Yeah. Whereas Mando is clean. Yeah. Right. And so it's just kind of an interesting reversal in Mandalorian, which takes place after Jedi. Yeah. Right. So I just keep going back to Mos Eisley. Okay, so Obi-Wan's been places, right?
He got around.
He's got around. He fought in the Clone Wars. He's been to Geonosis, for Christ's sake. How can he say that Mos Eisley is the most wretched hive of scum and villainy when he's been to all of these other places? It's really not that bad. It doesn't, but whatever. I'm sorry.
It's a bit of a bold claim.
Yeah, right. Like I've seen where you've been, man. Like, damn. But yeah, like they go to, and you meet the next kind of hero of the story, which is Han, and Han shot first. I'm just gonna say that now. Yep. Did you ever see the interview with Harrison Ford when they asked him like, did Han shoot first or did Greedo shoot first? Because there's been this whole thing. In the original cut, Han shot first, and then they spliced in that they shot at the same time, and then it's been weird. Like the footage has been edited. But when they asked Harrison Ford, did Han shoot first? His response was, I don't know and I don't care. Which is so Han Solo.
It's very Han Solo. I'm alive. That's all that matters.
But you get to meet Han and Chewie, and they board the Millennium Falcon to go into space to, I guess, go to Alderaan.
Hit your ride for 10,000 credits or whatever. Which is another area that, like, again, it's just the world kind of being shown to you. That of course there would be someone like Han who has like the ability to do this and who has this kind of as a career. We talked in previous book episodes. We limit ourselves to one rabbit hole, and the Millennium Falcon is what I want to use my rabbit hole on.
Go team!
It is one of like the most iconic like images, right? in like sci-fi and fantasy. Like everybody knows what the Millennium Falcon is.
Yeah. You see a silhouette of a Millennium Falcon and you know what it is, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's right there beside Vader, right there beside R2. Like you just like that's like even people who haven't seen Star Wars, like I've seen them. Oh, that's Star Wars.
Yeah.
Right. Which is just cool. But
right.
I'm excited.
If someone says they have never heard of the Millennium Falcon, the correct response is it's the ship that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs.
How do you not know about this?
How do you not know about it? It's
Childish Gambino had it.
It's outrun Imperial starships. You absolute knave.
You disgust me. I don't even know why I'm talking to you.
So let's talk about the Millennium Falcon. We'll talk, first of all, it is originally a Corellian built freighter. It's built about 60 years before the events of A New Hope. And so it has like this whole life before it ever met Lando of like just being a freighter. Basically the mandibles on the front where it has like that square cutout.
Yeah.
That's where it would have like pushed freight around.
Oh, cool.
Like,
okay.
That's what that was for. It was then like outfitted later by Han for those like two outjutting mandibles to have cannons in them because he's like, I need to shoot people,
I mean,
right? I'm not pushing freight around. So basically, it was involved. It was during the Clone Wars. It actually it does exist, but it was a property of the Republic. It had a different name. It was called the Stellar Envoy for whatever reason.
Okay, it's way less cool. So
yeah, right, way less cool. And it was involved in a collision with a bulk freighter and basically sold for scrap, and that's where Lando acquired it. He acquired it in a game of Sabacc, which is basically like their poker game, right? You see a lot of it in Solo.
Yeah. No idea what those rules are.
Yeah, not a clue. Doesn't make any sense to me. But he acquired it. He converted it into a sports vessel after seeing basically the potential of like the freight pushing engines. It had like these humongous engines for its size. And he was like, I bet this thing could be real fast.
I love it.
Right. So he like kind of retrofitted it to be super fast. And if you've seen Solo, then kind of in the events of Solo, L3, which is a droid that Lando has, is essentially the consciousness is uploaded into the Millennium Falcon. And that's really where it becomes what we know as the Millennium Falcon as its core. When we talk about it making the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs, there's been that's first of all, that's a meme, right? Of like parsecs is a unit of distance, not a unit of time. That is true. It is a unit of stellar distance, and I think that's probably what happened, right? Is they looked up like some spacey term,
yeah, right,
and just like wrote it in. It has been sort of like retconned in as like lore. Where George Lucas kind of explained, okay, well, here's the way that like hyperspace works. Basically, hyperspace is a parallel dimension. It correlates 1-to-1 with space in like our real space. And when people pass the speed of light, they enter hyperspace. They're able to move through hyperspace, but objects that have mass in real space also have mass in hyperspace. And coming close to those masses can be catastrophic. And so when ships have to navigate through hyperspace, they have to have very defined pathways. And Han even talks about this, where he's like, one wrong calculation, we can end up in a supernova or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's, so when they talk about it in terms of the retcon, when they talk about it running the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs, the safest way to run the Kessel Run took 20 parsecs.
Okay.
And Han, after uploading L3 into the Millennium Falcon, was able to calculate a way with the speed and the agility and the size of the ship to do it in 12. And so that's the way that he was able to do it, quote, faster.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Was because he was using less distance. He found a more like efficient way to make the Kessel
more
Run.
dangerous, but
more dangerous, yeah. But also super cool.
Yeah. I do really like the fact that L3 is in the Millennium Falcon because it's like a sentient form at that point, right?
Yeah.
And like 3PO and L3 don't really get along.
Yeah.
I just love funny. Like it's just like that kind of lore is just great. Like
it is.
And like you do like the Millennium Falcon even before Solo, you felt like it was a character.
Yeah.
Right? Like when it gets shot, you're like, no,
please don't. Yeah. It's kept them safe. It hides them from, Imperial stormtroopers and like its fancy smuggler cabins, whatever. They can't be scanned or whatever.
Yeah, which like look down. It's really not that hard.
It's not that hard. But I think you're right that it makes it feel like a character. That's one of the reasons it becomes like so iconic. We know that it goes through like it stays with Han through the original trilogy. It then like has some more like interactions over the like later trilogies, which we can talk about when we do an episode with that. Just know that it sticks around. And it continues to go through repairs. One of the reasons that Lando comes up and goes, "What did you do to my ship?" It looks very different from when Lando had it. But yeah, anyway, that's my kind of like synopsis of the Millennium Falcon. Is when I was a kid, like watching Star Wars, it was always like yeah, I wanted a lightsaber, but like if I had a choice,
yeah,
definitely the Falcon.
I want the Legos for the Millennium Falcon.
I know they're always like, and they're always huge and really expensive.
Huge. One of my coworkers has it.
Yeah,
yeah. It's
It'd
so
be
cool.
a lot of
It's
fun.
like it's bigger than it's the size of this table.
Yeah,
Like it.
they're crazy big.
Yeah. It looks so cool.
And they have like actually, there's like published like schematics for like here's where like the kitchen is, and
Yep.
like there are actual canon layouts for the way the Millennium Falcon is arranged.
Yeah. I love that kind of stuff. Like
Yeah.
I love the details, right?
For sure.
For
sure. So yeah, that's my little rabbit hole. Diving
nice.
into
I
the
like
Millennium
it. I like it a lot. Yeah.
Good.
So the captain of the Falcon is one of the heroes of the story, Han.
Yep.
Right, and then you got Chewie.
Yep.
Which okay, so Han is a hero. Han's an interesting character.
Yeah.
Right. Like he's just like you love him.
Right.
But he's also kind of like, he's in it for the money, right?
Right.
Until Empire, I guess. Well, like, I don't know. Like, the entire time.
Until the end of A New Hope, right? When he comes back.
When he comes back, like,
Yeah.
that's when he's, like, solidified into the hero status for me.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Chewie's always a hero. I love Chewie, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I just, like...
Chewie's like his conscience, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, like, in Empire, when 3PO gets, like, destroyed by the Empire droids in Cloud City, where, like, Chewie's trying to, like, put them back together. That's, like, so sweet. Yeah, it's so sweet.
Chewie.
Yeah, Chewie's a great character.
sure.
And you see like kind of like that love again in the sequel trilogy as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that bond is just so cool, which you get to see in Solo, like how that got formed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like you see like why are droids never like I don't know, like why does no one ever like why do people talk back to droids? It's like, well, droids aren't known for ripping people's arms off like Wookiees are. And it's like, oh, like Han, like Chewie and Han, like that's a relationship. Like how he rips arms off. How did Han become friends with that? Right? Like so it's that intrigue.
For sure.
What other heroes do we got in this story?
For sure. I think like when I think of Star Wars, it's probably more than other like books and series that we've analyzed, has a very clear delineation between
Totally.
between like good and evil, right? I think the only one who is in the gray area for me would be Lando Calrissian.
Yep.
As kind of like a neutral, like we're not sure. Han, you could say, is like in that, but at the beginning. But I agree that he like it's very much locked into the hero category, and like in the 5 and 6, he's like totally like there. Like no, you don't really doubt it. Other than that, yeah, the obvious ones would be like Luke, Leia, and then like the droids, and just like in general, like the rest of the rebels. Right?
Yep.
Admiral
Yep,
Akbar,
yep.
and like all those.
It's
guys.
a trap.
Yeah, it's a trap. And all of like his crew or whatever,
Yeah. Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, the Rogue Squadron.
Oh yeah. Wedge.
Wedge.
Go team.
I always think Wedge's name is Wash because of Firefly. Like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
always
yeah.
like, I'm always like, oh yeah, Wash. That's not his name.
That's not his name.
What is his name? Yeah, Wedge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that like the delineation between like good and evil, do you think that that's good for the series, or like could they have written in more characters that were like kind of gray?
That's a good question. I like it how it is.
Yep.
It's like the original trilogy. I like how I like how there's that delineation, right?
Mhm.
Like I think you're thrown into so much that having gray characters probably could complicate that a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Whereas like in the prequel trilogy, there are gray characters, right? Like
For sure.
the banking clans and everything, where it's like not taking a side, they're just funding. Or like in the sequel trilogy, it's like they make weapons for both sides.
Mhm.
So that kind, which probably is evil, but whatever. But I do really like the delineation, is because you're learning. Like you have no idea what a Wookiee is, you have no idea what a droid is, you have no idea like
Yep.
all of these words and world building and how much that they had to portray in just 3 movies.
Yeah.
Like I kind of like the fact that you don't have to try and figure out characters. You know where they stand, and you know it's a battle of good versus evil.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was probably a choice. It may have been a necessary choice, but like when we were talking about the Lord of the Rings, right? The Lord of the Rings had a similar challenge, but managed to find room for Gollum, who was like a bit of a
Okay,
gray
yeah, that's
character.
fair. That's fair.
It managed to find room for Denethor as like this king who like is maybe a little bit good, maybe a little bit evil. I think there probably could have been a little bit like everybody on like the side of the Empire is just like okay with blowing up Alderaan, right? They're like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, whatever.
I really don't care. Kill a planet of people. It's just whatever. And even like on the good side, it's like often have like I think that's what makes like Lando and I've always wished that there was more of Lando's character. You know, I just felt like there was more room for him to kind of grow.
Dude, I got news for you. There's gonna be a TV show
with actor Childish Gambino. I agree, but I think also that's probably where like Mandalorian is probably arguably a pretty gray character.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah,
He's really not on one side. He's like kind of bouncing back and forth. And so I think as like the series and the world and all the characters and the races have become established, they are able to build into that. They're able to kind of grow into more gray types of characters.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I like all the heroes. The villains are really cool. So let's switch over to the villains.
Sure.
So you got Palps.
Good old Palps.
Good old Palps.
Good old Sheev.
Sheev. Mr. Sheev.
Mr. Sheev.
And then, I mean, you got Vader, right?
Yeah.
Like, iconic villain.
Yeah.
If you think of villain and you don't, like, immediately think of Vader, that's impressive.
Right, it comes to mind immediately, for sure.
Yeah, and it's, like, almost like an icon. I would not be surprised if I type in villain if the Vader emoji pops up. Right? Like, right? It's just there.
Yeah.
And I just can't, I don't know, like, in 77, did they know how iconic it was going to, they couldn't
That
have.
Vader would be, yeah.
But, like, they pulled it
because he's
off.
definitely more of an iconic villain than any of the heroes are iconic heroes.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's everyone's in white, Vader's in black.
Yeah.
Right? Vader's and Anakin, like I've said previously, Anakin is my favorite Star Wars character, maybe my favorite character of all time. But he is so extra. Like he is so like
I want a fucking cape.
Yeah. No capes. But like when Obi walks around the corner and Vader's just there and like ignites his lightsaber, it's like, okay, like come on.
Wanted a dramatic entrance.
Yeah, exactly. Or like
he was just holding. You're right. He was just holding an unopened lightsaber in his hand. He's gonna walk around that corner any second.
Or yeah, my favorite one is in Rogue One.
Yeah.
Which takes place right before A New Hope, and where Vader is at the very end when he boards the ship and is killing all the rebels. Mm-hmm. If you notice, when he like the doors open and Vader is there and it's just like a silhouette and like he turns on his lightsaber and it ignites, like he turned off his life support so he could be completely black. He is extra.
And I respect that.
I respect it.
He's like, I never noticed that. He's like holding his breath. Yeah. They're going to open the door any second. Yeah. This is going to be awesome. Playing his little harmonica in his suit.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to use my rabbit hole here in the villains.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk about a villain that only had 5 lines in Empire, and that's Boba Fett.
He only had 5?
He only had 5 lines in Empire Strikes Back, which is where he shows up. So my rabbit hole is going to be under the most feared bounty hunter in the galaxy, Boba Fett.
Yeah.
So it's crazy, like 5 lines, and like I think Lucas. Okay, well, you know, he gets thrown into the Sarlacc, and I think Lucas at one point said, like, if I knew he was going to be that big of a deal, I would have given him like a better ending. Like, but I think some of like the mystique comes from the fact that he is so quiet. Yeah. Right. So, but yeah, Boba Fett, he was created as a clone from his father Jango Fett, who is a Mandalorian who, like, Boba Fett was actually like part of Jango's payment for supplying the DNA for the Republic clone army. Which if you've seen the prequels, you know what that is.
Yeah.
So Jango raised Boba as his son, and then like when Mace killed Jango in the Battle of Geonosis, Boba kind of like was left orphaned and like took a vengeance pack against Mace Windu. Mm-hmm. And Boba wanted to kill Mace. Mm-hmm. So after that, another bounty hunter.
It's a bold goal, by the way.
It's a bold goal. Yeah, it's a bold goal. Another bounty hunter at that point named Aura Singh took him under his wing to try and help kill Mace to get revenge. Mm-hmm. There's this huge plot in the Clone Wars where Boba pretends to be like a young clone trooper to get into and infiltrate the ranks to try and kill Mace, which obviously does not work. Yeah. But Boba gets caught, thrown in prison. Once he gets out, he starts his own bounty hunter crew called the Krait's Claw, with a significant number of Clone Wars characters. Part of that, most noticeably Asajj Ventress. So getting into kind of what we're talking about, Boba Fett was hired by the Empire to track down and kill the pilot who destroyed the first Death Star. He didn't do that, but he did find out who did, and he's the one that told Anakin that his son was still alive, or that he had a son. Yeah. So this was part of the comic book lore. So he tracked down and found Luke, was not able to kill Luke because Luke's a bamf, and then ended up going back and telling Vader that someone by the name of Luke Skywalker is the one who blew up the Death Star. And Vader's like,
Luke, what now?
That's not a common name. And then kind of into the movies, Fett was hired by Jabba the Hutt to track down and capture Han Solo.
Yeah.
And he did this by partnering with the Empire to capture them on Cloud City because Vader wanted to use Han and Leia to attract Luke. Yeah. During the botched execution, Boba was sent sailing into the Sarlacc pit. Jetpacks kill. No jetpacks. So the first time, I misspoke. Boba Fett, the first time he appeared on screen was actually in the best movie of the entire thing, which is the Star Wars Holiday Special. And I'm sorry, and he only had 4 lines of dialogue in Empire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So after that stunning performance in the Holiday Special, he was training in hand-to-hand combat, and I kind of what I wanted to, after the history, I wanted to dive into his armor. Or his gear. So he has Beskar armor, which is dived into a little bit more in The Mandalorian, but Beskar is kind of something that can repel lightsabers if it's pure. Gotcha. Which is why Mandalorian and Jedi are enemies. Yeah. And so the Mandalorian wars were fought against the Jedi. He has a Z6 jetpack with an explosive missile, which is dope. It's known for being very fast and nimble, but it's also very vulnerable to external impact damage. Oops. He has wrist gauntlets that have flamethrowers, vibro blades, whipcord launchers, and a wrist laser, because you just need those. He has knee pads with...
I don't leave home without them.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. His knee pads have dart launchers in them, so he can kill people with his knees. On his shoulders, he had braids of Boba's, or he has braids of all of his victims. He would keep trophies. That's creepy. Dude, Boba in the comics, crazy. He would just mercilessly kill everyone. Yeah. And then Slave One, which not the most iconic, but I think it may be one of the coolest ships out there. It has laser cannons, projectile launchers, and this badass seismic charge. Yeah. And people, it's talked about how people knew this ship and they were afraid of it. Yeah. If Slave One came over your town, you know you're in trouble. And so he was a very notorious, crazy character that only had 4 lines in Empire. Yeah,
I almost feel like he was a concept art that someone threw out at some point, and they were like, "Hey, we could write that guy, and that looks really cool." Just as an idea of all these weird aliens and dudes and how people live and make a living and all that stuff.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, so that is Boba Fett clone. So so he's a clone, which I guess the main difference between him and the other clones is the clones for the army were rapid aged. So that's why there are no more clones around by A New Hope.
Gotcha.
They're all dead.
The other difference is that he knows how to shoot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's obviously true. Better helmets. But yeah, that's kind of what I had for villains because I like the villains.
Yeah. We do love a good villain. I do think that while the villains are obviously phenomenal, even we didn't talk about even Grand Moff Tarkin in he's almost like an unsung villain of A New Hope, right? Because he has that sharp jawline, cheekbones, right, and jawline, and he's just immediately intimidating.
And he commands Vader, right? That has saying something,
that
right?
Saying something.
He's holding Vader's leash.
Yeah, he's holding. It's
Vader's leash. This dude means something.
Right. And Jabba is super iconic also. So there's all these excellent villains, but I do think that the story of Star Wars is focused on and driven by the heroes, and I think it has a very successful emotional arc that is tied very closely to a hero story, right? Specifically in Luke, obviously he's the one that we kind of latch onto. He's the one out of all the characters that has a normal life. So when we're have all this action and Civil War and everything, like you said earlier, we're kind of grounded by Luke and we feel kind of safe and we identify with him. He has this this scene where he kind of like puts his foot up on a rock and his hand on his knee, and he stares off into the sunset, as like the emotional music swells and fades behind him, and he hangs his head, because he's just been told he won't be able to go to the academy or whatever, right? And you're like, I get it, Luke.
Yeah.
I want to look at the sunset also. But yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. How I think that A New Hope is almost like an example case, right, for a correct story arc. Like one that's going to start like in media res. But then when like you follow the rest of it, it has like kind of these like low tension points where it does like a little bit of sort of exposition. And it's like showing you his world and everything, and then like it has the classic call to action, and then like where his aunt and uncle are killed, and so he's kind of like pushed off. Like there's like a tension point. It has like Alderaan being destroyed as another tension point. It has like the Death Star and the rescue is like another tension point. Eventually, like Obi-Wan is killed as like the second to last one, and then like use the Force is like the final like kind of climax, right?
Yeah.
And that's just like in A New Hope. The overall series, I think, has obviously like several like key climaxes, and it has what I think what anyone would recognize as like one of the greatest plot twists of all time. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yes, it is the greatest plot twist of all time. I'll die on this hill.
Let's go. So let's talk about that for a second, because it is like Luke, I am your father. It is so iconic and it's so important. Like, why do you think that it is so impactful?
How much time do we got? Okay. So, like, I feel like it's almost a trope at this point, but it wasn't, right? Like, no one saw this coming.
Yeah.
Like, nobody knew that this was happening on the set. Like, there's an interview with Mark Hamill where he was talking when they first saw the screening of Empire. Mm-hmm. Harrison Ford did not know that Vader was Luke's father.
Wow.
Yeah. And he goes, quote, he like leans over, he goes, "You didn't fucking tell me that." And so, I think it came out of left field, and Luke is the shining beacon of good and light. And to know that he was spawned from what you think is the most evil thing at that point, right? You really haven't met Palps. Yeah. But so it's just like the plot twist is insane, especially because he's in such a vulnerable position at the point. Like he's hanging off the side. Yeah. He's just lost his hand, right? Vader's towering over him, and like this.
He went through all this like training, even with Yoda, and like you thought like all of that was going to mean that he was going to win, right?
Exactly.
He went through the training montage.
Yeah, he went through the training montage, and yeah, in that fight, like Luke scores one hit on Vader, right? He hits his shoulder once. Yeah. Right, and you kind of start to understand how powerful this guy is, and it's like this is the most evil thing that like Luke has to kill. He's gonna come back and he's gonna rise up, and then all of a sudden it's just like twisted, like I am your father, no, I am your father, right? And it's just like this bombshell that's dropped, and you can see Luke like he goes through like the stages of grief, right? Like denial, like the no, and then he like tries to kill himself.
That's not true.
Yeah,
but I think you're right that like they really let that like sort of marinate for a second, where like that shot of Luke like going. You're right. He like totally goes through like stages of accepting that, and it takes like a couple. It takes like 30 seconds or 45 or something like that. Like it really slows down and lets you as the audience go like, oh shit, they're serious. Like
and they're serious. He knows it. And then, fast forward 5 minutes when Luke is on the Falcon again, leaving. Yeah. And Vader reaches out to him and like contacts him, and he responds immediately with father. Mm-hmm. Right. So, he's accepted it already. And it's also like it's almost tender how Luke responds. And so it's just like, not only is it this great story of good versus evil, but now like they're intertwined a little bit. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, this is a different type of conflict than I thought we were going to be seeing.
Yeah. It wasn't just going to be, the good guys have to fight really hard, and if they fight hard enough, they beat the bad guys. Right. Now all of a sudden it's complicated. And I think that's made even more like complicated by like Luke's father is set up at the very beginning of A New Hope to be like what Luke hopes to be. Right. Yeah. Like he's set up to, he's like, your father was a Jedi. And he's like, oh, like, do you know how my father died? Right. And there's this awkward pause.
From a certain point of view, bullshit, Obi-Wan, bullshit.
You're full of shit, Obi-Wan. But like, he's like, like Luke, like I said, he's looking off into the sunset. He has these dreams of what his life what his life off of Tatooine like could be, and that's basically represented and sort of embodied by his father, this Jedi who like fought the good fight and died, and now he's literally holding his lightsaber, right? He's literally picked up his sword and is trying to like kind of follow
the youngling Slayer 9000.
Exactly. He's trying to follow in those like footsteps, right? And the audience is sort of like, we've kind of identified with that. So to have that like betrayed, to have that like,
no, that's a great point.
just to have it totally like twisted on its head is like, it hits you as well. And that points to how deep of an emotional connection it's built to it. Like you feel betrayed where you're like,
yeah,
what do you mean?
Yeah, especially because you've been told that Vader killed Luke's father.
Right.
So there's that whole situation where Luke is fighting the good fight, but he's also fighting his father's murderer.
Yeah.
And
Also the guy who's like partially responsible, or maybe not even partial, but like indirectly responsible for the murder of his aunt and uncle.
Yeah. And the mentor.
Yeah, and the mentor. Yeah, directly responsible for the murder of his mentor, who happens to also be his mentor.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah, more of Obi-Wan's bullshit.
Obi-Wan's a character. No, I agree with you, because you do feel betrayed. You feel sad. And the fact that they ended the movie on that, that's absurd.
What
like,
a cliffhanger.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think, like, if you set Two Towers aside, right, in trilogies, you typically think of the second book as kind of this filler.
Right.
Where, okay, like, nothing's going to happen. It's going to get me from the start to the end.
Yeah.
And then when that happens, you're just like, oh, this is neat, right?
Yeah.
Like, we got something here. Like,
for sure, because Empire is arguably the best of the three.
Oh, yeah, I think it is, easily.
I think, like, A New Hope would be like, it's like technically the best, where it has
the story and
it
everything.
has these stories and it has the exposition and all these things, but yeah, I love Empire Strikes Back. Like,
Empire's sick.
Empire is a great fun, good film.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about New Hope and Empire. Let's briefly kind of talk about the story arc in Return of the Jedi.
Sure. Yeah.
Which I think is probably the weakest of the three films.
Yeah,
which is still really good.
It's still
right?
good.
It's still really good. I need to bring up the fact that the plot to free Han, one, they waited a year. Like, right? Like, come on. Han's been in Carbonite a year. But the fact that they sent the droids in, they sent Leia in, they sent the droids in with Luke's new saber so that they could get captured and then hopefully not destroyed. And then they sent Leia in to get caught. And then Luke, Luke, just go and swinging, man. Like, come on. We could have saved so much time.
Right. So anyway, I started blasting.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where we should have started.
Yeah. Whatever. But anyways.
Yeah. I think the movie also struggles with trying to do a little bit too much, like storyline wise, right? Like in A New Hope, we're all on the same page. Everybody's doing the exact same thing, and we're like and it's like every act, all of the main characters move together, and so we're just following this like one storyline. And part of, like we said, there's so much being introduced to you that the simplicity of that helps. In Return of the Jedi, everything has been introduced to you. You know all the characters, don't have to do any of that, so it can kind of afford to split and do multiple storylines. But I do think that it hurts it a little bit, right? Because all of a sudden, like, Han is like on the planet and Luke is like in the thing, and Lando is like out shooting people, and like all the characters are split up and they're all doing like, and you're like these flashy scenes where it's flipping back and forth to like try and show you what all the characters are doing. And it's like, okay, if this was a TV show, this would be easier. But in like a 2-hour movie, it feels a little bit like rushed almost.
I agree with that. Yeah. I do think that it does feel rushed, and that all of it's really cool. I do really like the entire scene of Luke interacting with Palpatine.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much value.
There's so much value there. Yeah. And like before the duel starts, it's just dialogue, right? Yeah. Like they're looking out over the fleet, and Palpatine calls out. He's like, "Yeah, I know your friends are down there trying to disable the shield. I got a legion of troops. Like they're not getting there." And you feel like despair, right? Yeah. Like it's pulling you into the pit of despair right before the Ewoks come in and save the day.
Yeah. And just like even the costume choice to put Luke like in dark colors.
Yes,
right?
in black.
In black, and to show him first of all like in the despair, but also like you kind of raise the question of like what's going to happen. Like we know that his father made this decision. Like is that kind of the way he's going to go? Yeah. It's like it's a legitimate question for a minute there.
Right. And I'm getting chills just like talking about it. But like after in the fight, like Vader's saying it's too late for him. Right. Anakin saying this, where Luke realizes that it's not, and the line like "I am a Jedi like my father before me," Like, I love that line where he throws away the lightsaber, and then Palps is like, okay, well, then you're going to die.
Yeah.
And then, he's crying
Jazz
out.
fingers.
Yeah, jazz fingers. And he's sitting there, being Force lightning to death, and he's crying out for his father, and his father yeets Palps into the reactor.
Yeah, where he dies forever.
Ish. Asterisk. I just think that I really like that from one, just Vader's redemption arc, but also from when you get the entire story from like Anakin's redemption arc.
Yeah,
because Anakin turned to the dark side because he wanted to protect his family, and he, I think, redeemed himself in the fact that he protected his family.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that final scene is not just a cool lightsaber fight.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Like you said, that he like tosses the lightsaber away and he like makes the choice, and then like all the decisions that are being made are like emotional. Like all the characters are having to face their past decisions and what's brought them here today, and like they're having to face against that. It's not just about how good they are with a lightsaber. And also, like, they've kind of like already had that fight. Like they did check off the box. Like, you got a cool lightsaber fight. But it's not just about him like literally besting Vader or something like that.
Right. Which we say it's the worst. It's still a really good movie.
It's still awesome
because it's also really okay. I'm just gonna keep talking about this. Like when the three of them are talking up in the Death Star 2, and you got that contrasted with Lando's and Han and Leia's fights. So you get action spliced into the dramatic conversations, which I just really like the fact that the most powerful people are the ones talking it out. And you have like these teddy bears taking down AT-STs, right?
Yeah, going at it.
Which,
speeders.
And speeders.
Just clotheslining dudes left and right. Is that, I don't remember, is it 5 or 6 where like Luke gets like the high ground over Anakin and or over Vader, and Vader, it's 5. Yeah. He's like, I've seen this shit before. Throws his lightsaber at him.
Oh no, I'm sorry, that is 6. That is 6. Yeah.
Luke gets up on the stairs and he's like, "No, sir." I've seen what happens when I fight the high ground.
Yeah, and like even that decision of like throwing his lightsaber. Yeah. Right, like Vader isn't giving it his all. Like that's not the tactical move, right? Like you can't get rid of that. Right. Like that, you need that.
Yeah. I think it does show like the rage and conflict that Vader's going
absolutely.
through at that point.
Yeah, like choreography and everything and all the like those decisions were just perfect. Yeah. So yeah, that kind of fills in everything that I had in my notes. Was there anything that you wanted to touch on before?
No, I think I've gotten to talk about everything that I wanted to talk about here. It's so hard not to keep talking, right? It's so hard not to just like cover everything.
Yeah, I got some editing to do.
Exactly. Even we're probably long even from where we want to be. But it's there's so much to cover here, and that's why we're just doing the original trilogy. I can't imagine how awful this would have been if we tried to do more of it. So we'll come back and we'll hit the other trilogies in later episodes. Not immediately. We'll hit it down the road a little bit.
Down the road. But the next one that we are going to hit is Mistborn. Yep. The Final Empire. Make sure that you grab a copy of that, either audiobook or if you somehow have learned to read, you can read it. But we're going to be talking about that here in about 5 weeks. Yep. So we'll remind you again on our next episode. But then in that following episode, full spoilers ahead.
Full spoiler ahead.
We will talk about Mistborn, the Final Empire, which hopefully will encourage you to read the next 2.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely worth it. But it does stand alone as a book, so you don't feel like you have to read the rest of it if you don't want to. It's the other side of the spectrum from soft magic here in Star Wars.
Yep, to Brandon Sanderson.
Very strict hard magic in Brandon Sanderson. So really excited to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can talk about that on social media as well. So we're on Discord, which is hop in place over there. So hop on over to Discord and let's chat about what we're reading, what you've been playing, and all that good stuff. We have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Find us, connect with us, because we love talking with you all.
Yep. Continue to submit us icebreaker questions. We love talking about those.
Yeah, those are a lot of fun.
Episode. Yeah, a ton of fun.
So if that's all that you got,
that's it.
Then
may the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
Cheers
buddy.